Welcome everyone to Things Around 8. Dear friends, in this video we will talk about the beginning of deliveries of F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. But why is this aircraft so important for Ukraine's defense? And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any news. On Wednesday, July 10th, Anthony Blinken, the United States Secretary of State, said during the NATO meeting in Washington that the F-16 fighter jets promised to Ukraine more than a year ago are being delivered right now, with Secretary Blinken reporting that the aircraft are now entering Ukraine from Denmark and the Netherlands. But exactly how many F-16 fighter jets will be delivered to Ukraine? Why did it take so long for them to start arriving? And why are these planes seen as so important for the country's defense against the Russian invasion? The exact number is not fully known, however. Based on the official information already released, Denmark, the Netherlands, Belgium and Norway have announced a total of around 80 F-16 fighters for Ukraine, with several other countries such as Romania, the United Kingdom and the United States participating by training Ukrainian pilots and mechanics. The sending of F-16 fighters to Ukraine was announced by Denmark and the Netherlands over a year ago, but it was only now, in July 2024, that the fighters finally began to arrive. And the reason for this is quite simple to understand. It is not at all easy to train pilots and mechanics for the full operation of new combat aircraft. And it is also not at all easy or cheap to create an entire new logistics chain of parts and tools for the operation and maintenance of these aircraft. In addition, of course, to the construction of local infrastructures for the safe and effective operation of such demanding equipment. A Ukrainian fighter pilot, even with a lot of experience, is not used to flying Western aircraft, with his experience limited to Soviet-designed fighters, such as the MiG-29, and the transition from a MiG-29 pilot to the F-16 is not an easy process, as these aircraft behave completely differently. It is one thing to start a fighter, take off, do a few turns and land, but it is quite another to master the machine to the point of extracting its full combat potential. This necessarily involves long hours of flying and simulated combat practice, extremely expensive and complex processes, especially when the time available for this is so short. This was the main reason behind the delay in sending the F-16 fighters to Ukraine. Which brings us to the last question. Why is this aircraft seen as so important for the country's defense against the Russian invasion? When a country launches a major military operation against another, one of the first priorities is to neutralize the enemy's air force. With the enemy air force neutralized, the aggressor achieves two important achievements. It is now able to bomb the enemy with much greater freedom, and its ground forces can advance without fear of major airstrikes. And that is exactly what Russia attempted to do at the very beginning of its invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022. By launching a massive barrage of ballistic and cruise missiles against Ukraine's main air bases. There are no official figures, but several sources report that about a quarter of the entire Ukrainian air force was neutralized in the first days of the war, with much of what remained being forced to hide in distant shelters for many weeks, giving Russia a major aerial advantage that greatly facilitated its rapid advance into the Ukrainian interior. But despite all the Russian efforts, the Ukrainian Air Force was not completely destroyed, and despite being greatly weakened, it continued to operate, with its fighters now almost exclusively dedicated to the mission of launching long-range precision missiles against Russian positions in the rear, to carry out other missions, such as intercepting the dozens of missiles and drones that Russia launches against Ukraine every day, and to keep away the planes and bombers that Russia uses to carry out these launches. The Ukrainian Air Force will need many more resources than those it has at its disposal, and that is precisely where the 80 F-16 fighters promised by the Allies and which began arriving in Ukraine in July come in. With these planes, Ukraine will be able to hinder Russian airstrikes with missiles depending on the number of aircraft, and will be able to create small no-fly zones for localized defense or ground attack operations. In addition, of course, they can be used to launch even more long-range missiles, such as the Storm Shadow. The F-16 is not and will never be Ukraine's definitive weapon, because that does not exist. But there is no doubt that if used correctly and intelligently, and if it is available in large quantities, it will greatly help Ukraine's defense effort against the terrible Russian invasion. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, Subscribe now and click on the notification bell so you don't miss any news.